I'm out here by a large river system, so come along with me. I'm going to scout my way in. I'm going to show you exactly what to look for when finding deer and hunting deer near big rivers. So the first thing you want to do is go along the edge, exactly what I'm about to do right now. So right away I'm starting to see decent sign that you should look for, and right here is a deer trail going under this tree. Follow this trail, it's going to lead you to where the deer go. After walking about 10 more yards, there's a trail leading off here, and there's another trail over here to the right. I'm going to follow this one because it's closer to the river, but ultimately you could follow either one. It's going to lead you to quality deer sign. So I'm still alongside this river, which is behind me. River's to my left, and over here to my right, of course, is more woods, but it dips down. It's a little swampy right now. So what I'm doing is I'm walking on this long stretch skinny hump from where I started, and I'm using this to my advantage because deer are going to feel more comfortable on this high ground walking up here. They're obviously not going to be walking in the river. They cross the river, so that creates kind of like a barrier and a good place for your scent to blow. So if you can set up there and have your scent blow into the river, that's a really good idea. Deer are creatures of edge, which is why we're on the edge of the river right now. If you can find that slight elevation change, it could just be a foot or two like I'm standing on now, that's where you're going to find a lot of your sign. So river on one side, higher elevation next to it, lower elevation on the other side. You might have to search a little bit to find this, but once you do, that's going to really concentrate where you're hunting. It's going to make it a lot easier finding signs, so you're not walking around the woods aimlessly for hours looking for deer and looking for deer sign. Yeah, this sucks. The good news is, to get in here, you wouldn't actually go this way and you wouldn't have to deal with it that much. You would actually be on the outskirts over there, and you'd wait for the deer to come out of this heavy bedding, set up in more of a mature tree out this way. So this can be a great spot all year long, but especially for the rut, having that hard edge of the river on one side, that swampy bottom on the other side. This is an old rub from last year. It's not a huge rub. You can see higher tide marks up here, down here. It's not very high up. This is probably a 1.5 year, 2.5-year-old buck that did this, but it still shows you that they cruise through here. And I'm still on that high ground. I'm still on that hump. River over there, muddy stuff over there. I'm on that hump just walking down the center where that trail happens to be. Thick autumn olive that way. This is an ideal place for what I would call a rut rub, where they're cruising through here. But that trail goes right here, parallel with the river, as usual, following the edge of this transition here. A little tip to deer scouting: if you know that deer are in the area for whatever reason, and you're kind of scouting like we're doing right now, every 10 yards, just stop and just kind of take a look around. Pan around and just kind of look for things. Look for rubs, look for scrapes. I can see really thick cover over there. Great habitat for bedding. Just stop and take a look around. Don't run or rush through this because you'll miss things. You've got these lowland river bottom maples. I believe they're called silver maples. Got one trunk coming up here. If you've got a decent stand that can offset the crookedness of these trees that you often find down here by rivers, that's ideal. You put a stand right there. Where I'm standing right now, if a deer walks through here, which this time of the year it would, there's enough cover, that's a perfect spot to set up on. Look at this one behind the camera. You could put a stand up there, go way up, kind of by the crotch of that tree. You have a perfect wide open shooting lane right here. Maybe not in other places, but here you do. So these are things you should be marking on your phone as you come through here. I recommend strongly using Onyx or some kind of program, can be any program you like, marking things on your phone, marking waypoints, stands, crossings, access points to get into these properties. It's really going to save you a lot of time. You think you remember them when you're there, but you will forget. After you have 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 places you like to hunt, you're going to forget all that stuff. You can't remember. So mark these things down, pay attention. That's very important to do because you do all this work to find the deer, have a plan to go in and kill the deer. Where am I supposed to go? Look at this deer bed. This was recently used. You can tell by the way the grass is matted down and the fact that the grass that's matted down is still really green. You've got that heavy trail coming out of that thick stuff on the edge over there, right next to the trail that continues up the side of the river. So yet again, the trail follows right alongside the river, comes up through here. I'm standing on the trail now, and it leads to here, and I marked here last year a scrape. This was an open scrape right here. You've got this autumn olive vegetation, but it could be any type of vegetation really. And where I'm standing now was the scrape, which is a little odd. And it's like right on the trail. Usually it's like just off or whatever. Right now, this is where the scrape was. It's not opened up at all. You can tell where they bite off the branches. They snip off the ends and stuff when they're making the scrape. Branch bitten off there, on the end over here, right in the middle of the trail leading down the river that way. I remember looking at this scrape, the one I'm standing in right now, because I thought that'd be great if I could sneak in, go around, and then kind of flank them and come in and set up on this scrape, especially that second half of October, first part of November. Then I was looking around like, where am I supposed to get in a tree to make a good shot over top of this scrape? To the left it gets super thick, to the right it gets super thick. Now the logical thing is to set up on a trail where it is open, where they're going to the scrape or coming away from it. If they're cruising along this riverside right here, spending time with the scrape, continuing up that way, there aren't a lot of trees to get up in. You might think that tree would work right there. No. You're completely blocked out by this tree. If they come underneath you, they're probably going to wind you. Or if they're going toward you like that, that's not an ethical shot. You need to be off away. Of course, I'm not going to be in the river hunting. The idea is to be behind the scrape, off the trail, 10, 15, 20 yards in a tree somewhere where you can shoot down to the scrape right there. Hunting near large rivers does not have to be complicated. You just need a few factors that are really going to help you find deer sign and find ways to set up on them. Just think about it for a second. Nobody's here right now. Nobody's doing this. Nobody's scouting this land. Nobody hunts here. You can be the one that hunts near a large river where you're from. Large rivers are everywhere. And whatever that means to you, that's what it means to you. It's relative. It's not something people think about when it comes to deer hunting. Find these trails, look for those scrapes during the season, get on that hot sign. You can be the only one there. And the fact that these deer run up and down the side of these rivers and leave sign consistently tells you that they're there all the time. All you have to do is find an open spot to set up to get an ethical shot where you believe they're going to cross. Let's say they run the river edge back there. I'm a ways away from the river now. They run that edge right there. Find a tree to get up in where you have a clear shooting lane at that trail. When I say run, I just mean walk. When they're walking through, there you go. You've got a situation set up for you. Obviously, you're going to set up where there's the most amount of sign. I recommend really keying in on scrapes, particularly 2 or 3 weeks before the rut, through the rut, and then slightly after the rut. That's going to help you see a lot of deer too. I see a lot of deer on scrapes. But that's basically it. You can be the only one and have the whole place to yourself, not letting other people screw up your hunt. It's easy access most of the time because there's a lot of access around rivers. If you have to canoe across it, big deal. You canoe across the river. What's so hard about that? Kayaking across, worry about getting out the deer later, but that's going to separate you from so many other people. And I would not shoot a doe if you need to cross a river and it's a ton of work. I would not shoot a young buck. I would shoot a mature buck, a trophy buck in that situation. That's another reason why I like hunting around water that allows you to float some type of kayak or canoe, is because you can sneak in quietly most of the time and leave very little ground scent compared to the conventional hunting of parking your car where everybody else parks, walking on the same trail that everybody else parks. Those deer have those places figured out and patterned really well. Deer do not have these places figured out and patterned as well because most people never even hunt here. They don't even see people often throughout the deer season because nobody comes here to hunt. Rant over. Make sure you subscribe.